Hello. Today I thought I'd blather a little bit about bench press and my problems with the bench press. I have no idea if they are your problems with the bench press. Mine stem from the fact that I've had slap tears in both shoulders. The left one's been repaired, the right one has not, so there's still a labrum tear somewhere inside of this joint. And I've got arthritis in both shoulders. Vet surgeons tell me probably gonna have to eventually get them replaced. I'm going to try and avoid that as long as possible. But having said all that, I still want to maintain some amount of strength and mass around those joints as long as possible. So I've had issues on and off of what I can and can't do. Used to be able to press a good amount of weight. Like I had at one point in time an overhead press in the mid 200s. I think I peaked at about 260, 265 for a single. Was able to do 225 for a set of 5. So pretty decent overhead press strength. My bench strength was probably not as impressive, but I was able to do, bench 315 for singles pretty easily, stuff like that. Anyhow, here I am now, old-ish, and just trying to figure out how to maintain some strength. So I've been doing more close grip bench press. That takes some of the pain off of the anterior shoulder here when I'm bench pressing. And some of the other stuff, I've done a bunch of stuff, changing angle, doing incline, not been doing much overhead press. I think most of my problems with the overhead press are actually structural. There's something like people do have varying anatomy, believe it or not. So there's been I think there is an issue with the way my shoulder impinges or something with overhead press. So I really haven't been doing it. But again, still want to maintain some amount of mass and strength in terms of pressing, tricep strength, etc. So having said all that, what is it that I need to do? Well, I need to maintain a good bit of, it's similar to the hip stuff that I videoed, kind of using the box for the box squat, maintaining some sort of useful functional ROM that might be above and beyond the amount of ROM I need for just regular bench press. So in the case of shoulders, I have been doing a lot of banded work. So I'll go through and demonstrate some of the banded stuff, maybe talk to it some while I'm doing it, and why I feel it's necessary for me to continue doing so that I can maintain some amount of, shoulder strength, as it were. Not looking to compete, just day-to-day functional strength kind of stuff. So anyhow, I'll go through some of that stuff, make a boring video, post it, and 3 people will watch it. But, just trying this out to see see if some of the experience that I've had in the past is useful for others. So what I think I'm gonna do is walk through some of the stretching that I do. There's 3 basic stretches that I do before I do any pressing. One is gonna be a dead hang, sometimes with some knee raises, and I'll show that. The second one is doing like the door frame stretch with a little bit of a twist I put on it. And then the last one is gonna be this bandage stretch, which is a variation of another one of those door frame type stretches, and I'll show you why I use the band here with that stretch. So that being said, I'm gonna move into that sequence, and again, dead hangs, door frame stretches, and then whatever this thing's called, behind the back, whatever, extended shoulder stretch. Okay. Dead hang is basic. Reach up, pull my head through, usually when I'm pulling my head through and I'm pushing it through as much as possible, I get a good bit of cracking and popping in my lower cervical and upper thoracic spine. I'm also lucky enough that I can do this with my feet flat on the ground still, my hands on the bar. And then, again, what I'll do to add a little bit more stretch, start to sink into it so you see my knee softening, and then maybe do some very easy knee raises while I'm in the stretch position to get a little bit more stretch and, you know, by the way, a little bit of lower ab workout. So that was phase one. Phase two, going to this door frame stretch. So my twist on it, which is not all that inventive, is you can see that the opposite arm is behind my back. So I've got, in this case, my right arm on the quote unquote door frame, in this case the power rack. The left arm is such that my hand is in the small of my back. Then lean into it, trying to slowly open up the front of that joint. And the reason why I stick my left hand, in this case in the small of my back, is that it helps me not cheat the stretch. It keeps my left shoulder back, my shoulders more square with my direction, you know, looking forward. So there's not a lot of compensation. And oh, by the way, it's also warming up the other side so that when I do switch, like I'm going to do now, the arm that's really bad, which is my right arm, because it hasn't been fixed, it can get into the small of my back, okay, which was a problem months ago, and the left arm is ready to go and get into a stretch. Typical PT stuff, try and do these for about 30 seconds to a minute. Give yourself some time to lean into it. That's one other thing that I've learned as I've been doing stretches for many, many years, decades, trying to rehab things, is that as you're in the stretch, sometimes, you know, the joint's gonna open up, the muscles are gonna loosen up some, and then you lean into it some more. So this is all very boring, but again, what I have to do to maintain some amount of range of motion in my shoulders. Phase three. I will turn the camera so that we can see this. Okay. So the last part of that sequence is going to be this bigoted shoulder stretch, extended shoulder stretch. So I've got a band. I don't think the weight matters all that much. I'm just using this green rope band because what I have extra, it provides a good bit of resistance for me. Some people might want to use less, some people might use more, whatever. So I'm going to step forward, having the shoulder fully extended behind me. Right shoulder back, right foot forward. And now you'll see that I've got to actually try to loosen up the front of the shoulder a little bit more. But what in fact I'm doing is pulling my shoulder back and in. So I'm kind of bringing my shoulder blade back and in and tucking as much as possible. Now, the reason why I use the band, if you're using a door frame, power rack or whatever, the thing you can't do while you're in the middle of this stretch is what I'm about to do now, which is simply this. I can turn my hand so I can go from pronated to supinated while in this stretch, which is going to change the length of the bicep in this stretch position so that you can get a little bit more stretch as you rotate that shoulder out, as you rotate your thumb up. So again, a little bit more stretch. And this stretch in and of itself has been the key to being able to get back to benching something that's approximating a not shitty weight. I'm not benching a lot. My closed grip has been able to do a set at like 205. It's nothing huge, obviously, but it's a lot better than where I was at, where I couldn't bench at all. At one point, I could not get a standard barbell in my hands to touch my chest without excruciating pain in my shoulder. So 205 for a set of 5 recently, that's a hell of an improvement. So yeah, just kind of work that as you want. As I cycle these stretches, sometimes, you know, I'll do like 2 or 3 rounds. And as I'm doing those rounds, you know, sometimes I'll be a little bit more static. Sometimes I'll be a little bit more dynamic. It's not super important to me to be very meticulous about those things. It's more about kind of going with the flow, testing the waters, seeing how the joint feels, and kind of doing what feels to be the right thing. That is not a trivial statement, I should say. Knowing what is right and wrong to do based on proprioception, what your physical feedback mechanisms are. It's not trivial. Figuring out what is a good type of pain, what is a bad type of pain. But I think most of us, once we've done some stretching, start to understand, okay, this type of acute response that I'm getting to stretching a muscle beyond what it's been doing, sometimes that's good, sometimes it's bad, and you'll start to figure out which is which. But again, you know, I'm not all that great of a practitioner in terms of being super consistent round to round. It's more like, let me see how things feel and alter on the fly. But the main part about stretching for me is that I hit certain things consistently. So like this stretch that I'm doing now, this has been the one that's been the biggest game changer out of the 3 in this round. All right, I'm gonna go through now the banded cycle. So I did kind of the stretches in the power rack that I used, one of them being banded, the 2 other just being kind of fairly typical stretches. Again, the hanging, the dead hang, door frame stretch, and then those extended shoulder, rear extended shoulder stretches. Again, a lot of people use a door frame or power rack for those as well. Showed you why I use the band, because I think it adds a dimension to that stretch that makes it far more useful. So I'm gonna walk through the banded work I do. I'm only gonna do a couple reps of each because no one wants to see me do 10 reps of each thing because it's gonna take forever. So again, power rack, I do not have a cable crossover. If I did, I'd probably do some of these movements just on the cable crossover. So what instead I've done is I've taken some Rogue bands, the minis, along with some of these Kinsui hook grip things. Pretty nice because it's like a barbell diameter grip. With this hook, it's got a little bit of like a piece of rubber in there to help grip on, but whatever. Took those, then I've got leftover shipping bolts that Legend sent when they sent me this rack, along with some big ass washers, 2-inch washers, so that I hold these straps in place in the rack itself. Not all that flexible of a setup, but you can see I've got red and I've got blue, and that's good enough for me. Some people, again, if you need lighter, this won't work. You'd have to get lighter bands, or again, the cable crossover machine probably be better for you. But you can also use these other types of bands that you can find on Amazon. These work similar. You just have to figure out a way to fasten them and hold them at the heights that you need to hold them at, so that it makes the articulation point for resistance proper for you. All right, so really simple. I start out, I'm gonna do flies, then I go to the overhead, then I go to press, then I go to a tricep extension, then I will go to a rear fly. That ends what I do with the smaller bands, and then I just do some 1R rows with this bigger band. Okay, so I'll go through that quickly. Do a couple reps of each. So here we go, right? Step out so I have some tension on these bands. I don't go immediately into a fly because that hurts sometimes. Press it out and then do the flies. From there, overhead, and into the chest press. And from there I can go into these overhead tricep extensions, doing both sides. Then from there, crossover again. Sometimes I like to pull these through because it just helps in terms of the bands play nicely with each other. Go ahead, set this up, and then I will do rear flies. And trying to keep these as high as possible, but you know, just as long as you're working the rear of the shoulder. Then finally, I'll go ahead and grab this guy, and then this is what I do. My 1R rows with the band. Notice again, I'm going to take this opposite hand, stick it in the small of my back, try and set my shoulders square, and then do rows like this. And you'll notice again, my wrist is rotating so that I get a little bit more now contraction of that biceps at the end of the range of motion. Same thing, other side. So that's it. Do a couple rounds of those. Again, 10 reps of each one. Cut that short because no one wants to see the full thing. But between that round of banded stretches and the other stretches that I do, that's helped restore a lot of strength and mobility in these shoulders that have had some accumulated damage over the years. A lot of arthritis, labrum tears. I've had this one dislocated. This one's also had some issues, don't know what. But hope that helps. If you're having shoulder problems, I do think that you want to make sure that you're stretching, working the weaknesses, so to speak. In my case, I do a lot of work at a computer, unfortunately, so it does tend to hunch us forward. And we want to make sure that we restore better posture. Very important, making sure those shoulders are back, chest is open, and that allows the anterior shoulder, to have the proper range of motion and keep that shoulder from grinding into the problems that it gets. A lot of those arthritis problems and labrum problems come from the fact that these things round forward. If they stay back, stay more open, usually you won't get as many of those structural and soft connective tissue problems. Again, hope it helps. It's helped me a lot, and I'm still able to lift.